Right, welcome back. We're starting to get into the last few minutes of this conversation. We received 3 questions just before the break, and we're going to get some answers for you. Minister, there's one that keeps coming up all the time, and it's the amount of money that government pays the Guptas to be on this show every month. Every week. What is your response to this? Let's put this to bed once and for all.
Yeah, on that one, remember, for us, the SABC is our platform.
Right.
And then they've got a mandate to support our programs. I can assure them, because they will be saying, they're saying they don't have money, then why are they there? But also, the thing that has been taken for granted all the time is to invest money on communication. That's why they now, all the time we're being bashed as government, because as long as you don't invest money on communication, there's no way that you're going to get your message across. Communication comes with money, and it has to be paid. Then I had to come to the issue that was raised by Tuku, Tutuka there. I think, like you're saying, the lip service must come to an end. I'll show you my example while I was in Kemos, because I spent 2 days there interacting with the communities. Then when I asked them, what programs are you actually watching on television? They've got their bouquet on channels. They tell me they watch news. And then the other ones, also the church one, because at least it deals with their souls. You can see it's an indication of the content that is there when it comes to these other channels. That the narrative has to change, but the DG will have to deal with that precisely on that one. So, and then Donald will deal with the issue of the youth, because he was very instrumental on the developmental of this policy when he started. He was acting then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Peter. You know, let me start by saying briefly, broadcasting, it's about changing how we see the world, how we see ourselves. Probably many of us here, we've not been to America. We have not been to UK, we have not been to Nigeria. But we can say something about Nigeria. Through what? Through the media. So, it is therefore important as a country that all of us, those who are in the content production, those who are gathering news and all of those things, begins to reflect on the kind of narrative and content that begins to tell us who we are as a nation. It's important. Otherwise, the world sees us through, use an example about taxis. And most of the time, our kids say to be a hero, you need to be able to do wrong things, and so on. I think it's upon the broadcasters themselves, or when they commission content, it must be content that begins to assist us for nation building and building social cohesion. But also broadcasting is about how the world sees us as a nation, as it were. I just want to say that. So that I think it then begins to change the narrative in terms of how then do we commission content as broadcasters. I call upon all those who are in the content space to begin to commission stories that begins to tell us as ourselves who we are as a nation. Not stories that begins to say, this is how bad things are in South Africa, and so on.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Peter, very briefly, the response to the question of how is it that we're actually empowering young people and how many jobs are we going to create is to a great degree going to be determined by the uptake of young people for government's programs. So we've highlighted at the beginning of this conversation that we are training young people as installers. We heard from the SABC in terms of their efforts to increase content production in the provinces. We are looking at in various components of government. The DTI makes seed funding available. You have the CSIR that is coming up with innovations that will allow young people to enter this marketplace, because the work that we do isn't only about joining the existing industry. It's fundamentally about transforming the broadcasting and entertainment sector. And that transformation involves moving towards a digital economy, which is really what is embedded in the DTT initiative. And my challenge to the audience is, if Nigeria, Nollywood in particular, can employ 1 million people, how many people do we think that we can employ as South Africans and unleash this young talent into the economy?
Fantastic. Okay, table number 4. Is this Congress Mahlangu? Table number 4? Yes, if you could stand up, please. We've got...
Thank you very much. I wanted to congratulate the minister for the wonderful job. But my question is about this elephant, small elephant in the room. Because more often than not, what clouds the work of the minister is the question that often they ask about SABC. And especially that the minister does not have power, or he has power to fire this SABC board. So I want to establish to the minister, say, Minister, when you have been given such powers, why are you not utilizing them? Or if there's any problem, to make use of those powers. Because this small elephant keep on popping in from time to time. And it clouds the wonderful work that you are doing.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so do you have the power to suspend the board? If so, why haven't you done it? Or do you want to do it, or don't you want to do it?
Peter, I'm a government shareholders representative at the SABC. That's my role. And mine is to make sure that I do oversight then that the SABC...
But the shareholders are the ones that appoint
I'm
and...
coming
Yeah,
there.
okay, all right.
I'm coming there.
Okay,
Then, there's this Broadcasting Act, that's very clear.
right.
Who should fire the board? I don't have that power. If I had, I would have done otherwise, but I really don't have those powers. So you'll find the narrative being said, but the Broadcasting Act is very clear as to what process should be followed to make sure that at the end of the day, there are various role players, they're starting from Parliament up to that recommendation going to the appointing authority, who in this case is the president.
So what role do you play then?
Mine is to being a shareholder representative, making sure that there's compliance oversight. Mine is an oversight role. That's the way.
So the board answers to you, but
yes,
but after it's been appointed by the president.
Yes, on the recommendation of the
So it's
National
only at
Assembly.
his pleasure or displeasure is the board changed.
That's what I'm saying to say. These various role players start from Parliament. That power actually vests with Parliament, because even the president can't do anything if Parliament hasn't done anything.
All right. The job of COO at the SABC, what's that? What's the story there? Is it going to wait until there's a board? You said that you can still function. Is it going to be advertised? What's going to happen?
Definitely, we've discussed this thing with the SABC board to say they must fill all the vacant positions. That include the job of the group chief executive
And the
officer,
2 other board members.
and the one of the COO. No, the board members, it's the responsibility of Parliament to fill the vacancies.
When do you think that will happen by?
Definitely, now that on the vacancies that has to deal with the senior executive of the SABC, I think the board has put the process in motion. But at the same time, we must understand also that this parliamentary inquiry that's going to take place. So it will be dependent on how far does Parliament move so that these matters are then closed up.
All right. Well, on that matter, we'll close this conversation. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but I just want to say thank you very much indeed for joining us and sharing your thoughts with us, because it is a momentous time that we're in. Digital television is part of the South African landscape. For those of you that are watching us in the Northern Cape, please tweet us and tell us what it feels like to watch HD TV, digital experience, because it is rolling out. Hopefully by the end of 2018, every single South African will have, and even the poorest, go to the post office, register yourself, and get on board. It's all happening. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a great day, everybody, and have a great weekend as well. Bye-bye.